Good morning, people. What we have here is a Nintendo Switch motherboard. The board seems to have a short, so the symptom of the console is that it's charging the battery at around about 500 milliamp, but it will not turn on. Nothing will come on the display, basically. So first thing first is that's the layout of the board. Okay, the main important thing is your charging ICs here, which is a BQ24193. This is where the battery gets connected. This IC here is a common problem. Okay, and that part number for this IC is M92T36. Okay, so that is a Type C USB power delivery controller, which works together with your charging IC here, and CPU's inside this, your RAM inside this casing, or shielding, I should say, and on the back of the unit, this particular IC is at question as well. Now, this is a P13Usb. IC, so it sort of puts out that this IC is like the retimer IC on your PlayStation or your Xbox, basically, where the output is the graphic output is sent out through the HDMI. So just pretend that this will be for the dock. So this IC controls the display out onto the dock, but bearing in mind that if this is shorted, it will literally take out the console, basically. So nothing will work. So let's probe around this area and see if we can find a short, basically. Let me just put this thermal pad away. Okay. I'm going to put my multimeter on continuity mode, or in fact, no, on a diode mode. Okay, and I've got so much wires here. I'm just absolutely short of space. There's nothing. You'd probably hear the beeping anyway, so you'll know it if there is a short, whatever it is. Right? Okay, so let me sort of. I don't want this going on for too long, so let's put these probe on. Zoom into the area that I want to have a look at under microscope, and I will talk to you as I'm sort of doing what I'm doing, and because sadly I don't have a microscope set up to give you that view of exactly what I'm doing, which is not good, absolutely not good. But why is the light coming off? Well, bloody, that's going to drain out my battery sooner than. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my red probe on the ground, and black probe I'll be poking around the area just to see if there is a short somewhere on any of these caps, basically. So let's get on with this. So that beeped once. That's your ground. That's your ground. Randomly probing around some test points, basically. Okay, so we're quite happy with the fact that there is no short on any of these capacitors. Okay, so this was the BQ24193 area. Now I'm going to move on to the M9 to T36 area and see what's going on there. Okay, so these are smaller caps than the one that's next to the BQ charging IC. Ground pad, that's okay. Okay. So when you get a single beep on the rail, that's coming out from the IC, and the track is connected to the capacitor, that shouldn't actually beep. If it beeps, then there is a short either on the capacitor or on the components in question, basically. So one side is that's connected to the IC, the other side is ground, connected to the IC, connected to the IC. So these are beeping, so I've got no concerns here, no concerns on this part of the board, which you didn't see. So there's no concerns here, no concerns here. So let's move on to them capacitors. Aha. Okay, so this capacitor there is beeping. Both sides, okay? So let me see if I can show you under the microscope. Get rid of this light. This light is becoming a bit of a nuisance, this actually. Now, I don't think this light is going to allow me to... Oh. Right, no. Thank you very much, camcorder, for fucking around. Right, so what I'm going to have to do is I'll just talk you through it, basically. Let me see if I can get a visibility. Yeah, I'm just going to have to do it that way. I'm really sorry. And I'm not prepared to change the microscope. It's just too costly. There's too much money been invested on this workshop, so I'm not prepared to do any more investments on it. It's this one. This capacitor there. That's beeping on here and on here, but remember, don't be fooled. That's not to think that the fault may be somewhere else. And the common problem with this Nintendo Switch is those three IC: the charging IC BQ24193 failing, or the M92T36, or the P13 USB. Now, because the chat is taking charge, I'm not going to question the charging IC. And also I'm going to try and avoid questioning the M92T36. The area I will be focusing on now is the P13 USB. Okay, let's have a poke around on that area. If I can get a view. Bit of a joke messing around with this, right? Okay, so red power on the ground. Let me find a ground pad somewhere here on this. Well, put it on top of that USB Type C. Okay, let's see what's going on. Yeah. Okay, so on this big capacitor, I'm getting beep on either side. Okay, I'm gonna have a poke around on this AC 5639. Yep. I'm hopeful they can hear all this beeping. That seems to be fine. I'll have a quick poke around where this Max, I believe this is a power management IC, Max 77620A. Let's see what's going on that area. Okay, so I'm getting beep on this area as well. Right, so first thing first is I'm going to try and remove this controller IC. This is the P13 USB. See what happens, basically. That's what I would like to do. So let's start removing removing this component and see if the short is gone, basically. Right, so what I'm going to do now is prepare me hot air station. Okay, and I think it'd be wise to sort of plug in the charging or the adapter for the microscope, sorry, the camcorder. Absolutely no idea. This is like Aladdin's cave, basically. I have no fucking space. That's better, so that I've got no to worry about. Okay, so let's warm up this Metcal HCT900. I think it's a beautiful station, hot air station. Turn the multimeter off, preserve battery. Okay, I'm hoping you can see this as well. Okay, and add a bit of flux, just to make a note that the orientation of the chip. So what I'll do is I have a short memory, and at time to time I'll forget things. So I'll take a picture of where the orientation, the little marking is. That's that. Effectively the marking is, let me just get a pointer, right, okay, so that's the chip, the capacitor, and the marking, the little dot is there, but there's nothing on the PCB to sort of say that this is pin 1 of the IC basically. So there should have been usually there should have been a little mark here. However, there is a little marker there, like a pointer here, that could sort of indicate, like a triangular pointer here, that the pin number 1. So you have to take pictures and all that business, but I just did it for the sake of it really. So right, okay, so what I'm going to do is, one other thing I'm forgetting, I normally do is I tend to cover the areas that I'm working on with a fair amount of these foil tape. Now I know the video is going to get a bit longer than expected, but let's sort this out. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to chop, and I'm hopeful so see what I've done. What I've done, I'm just going to sort of, I've just created a template that's way too big. See, that's way too big. I think we're gonna have to live with that. Alright, let's press this down. Right, let's add a bit of flux. Yeah, I used 2 types of flux, Amtech and Kimbo flux. Seems to work for me every time. Amtech is more on the expensive side. Kimbo is more on the cheaper side. But I think for me, quite happy using either. Right, here we go. So I'm going to preheat the board first of all. Just preheat the board before sort of raising the temperature on the hot air station. I'm quite happy with that. Level of preheat, I'm going to increase it to about 8. Hot temperature. The air will be set at around about 8. And sadly my hands are going to be on the way. Yep. Grab and lift. Alright, just going to stove. Right, okay. Move this foil away, because that could act as a conductive material on the PCB. Turn the foot back on. There's a lot of noise. Let's get rid of some of these noises. Put it in diode mode. Whoa, 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 whoa. I need to keep this IC in case that's not where the fault is. Okay, and there's no beat short on this capacitor. Let's check on the other side where the92T36 area, because we had a beep on that side on one of the capacitors. Yep, that's gone. If you can see this, that's the capacitor I was talking about. There's no beep on the track that's coming out onto the capacitor. Of course you'll get the beep on the ground side of it. We were okay with the BQ charging side. There was one other area where there was a bit of a beep. Now let's just see what was going on there. I don't think that's something to be concerned. That's in the Max 77. That's okay. Right, so we're going to just leave that to rest. Now let's focus on this area. A little bit of cleaning before making another attempt to put the I'm dropping things. That's good. Got to be careful with the hot air that you're not sort of. I mean, I nearly busted the charge, even with the foil. What I put up, I've nearly burnt the bloody Type C USB connector, because the heat has actually gone through to that. So what I'm going to do is, this is one of the reasons why I don't do much videos, only because it's just quite challenging. When I say quite challenging, means I have to move around and do this and do that and all that business basically. So first thing first is I'm going to get rid of the old gooey shitty solder. Right, you can't see a thing because I've not the thingy. Well, let's go back there. Tripod. That's better. So what I'm doing. I can slam another thingy on, but I'd probably like to just refresh the area with clean solder basically. So let's stay focused on that. Careful you're not knocking off any of the capacitors. All I'm doing is just using the goop wick or solder wick to get rid of the old solders from the pads. Once I've done that successfully, I'll be then applying fresh solder on the pads. What I've done is I've actually chosen the wrong tip to do that, sadly, but it's okay, I've taken excess most of the solders off. This is the wrong tip. This is more for the drag soldering, so it will work nicely once I try and put this P13 USB chip on. Right, so let's apply a bit more flux. And let's grab my quality leaded solder. Tiny amount on the center. Then just drag solder on top of these pads. I may have put a bit excessive amount on the center, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the solder wick again and try and take off. I know when I press down on the IC, anything that's excessive on the middle, that will come out. But because how close these capacitors are, and I don't want to be messing around shifting them, I'd like to sort of do minimal work once the IC has actually been put in place. Okay, so right, let's grab the IC now. So I've prepped the area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it another clean. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to still got the old one on that foil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of Captain tape to sort of cover that plastic area for the charging port. I was a bit surprised that that's actually started deforming a little bit, so not really happy about that, but it's ever so slight that it's not going to make any impact basically on anything else with it. Alright, so let's cover that. There we go. Okay, now I'll put my foil back on. I could do with a fresh pair of gloves because that's ripped. Yes, my apologies that there's a lot of noise going on in the background and I have no time for editing. Absolutely no time for editing. Okay, so the area is nice and clean. I've applied a bit of threaded solder before. Now I'm going to apply a bit of flux. Remember the orientation of the chip. Let's grab this Soco There we go. I hope you saw that. There it is. It's in the wrap. Let's take it out. We ordered loads of this from AliExpress. This seems to be a common problem. Is that a pull or a new? I see, that's a new one. That is a fresh one. That. So make sure I put in the correct orientation. But before doing so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to preheat the area. Just warm up the board a little bit. Okay, so let's preheat the area. Okay. I think that'll do. Up on the temperature to about 8. Let's reposition the control IC. And I'm going to hold it because it's so light that it'll just fly away. It all depends on the air pressure, but I'm hopeful that that's going to stay in place. Okay, just nudging the chip, and I don't have a steady hand. Okay, could do with it being moving a little bit towards its right. Suppose sometime let the gravity do its work. And I'm hopeful that that should do the job for me. However, I'm going to still go through these joints again. Okay, let me find the tiniest tip on my Metcal. Okay, let's switch over. Just wait for that to heat up. Just got to be careful that I'm not lifting any. A bit of solder on the tip. I don't think those joints were made off very nicely, so I'm touching it up basically. I wish you can see what I'm doing, but unless somebody's going to sponsor me for a microscope, then maybe, but otherwise this is not getting changed. I don't mean to sound like a cheapgate, but the amount of money that's gone into this workshop is far beyond belief. I might have a little bit of a problem on this Right, and we will have some problems here basically because of this large capacitor. So what I'm going to do is zoom in and see what's going on, but let's apply a bit more flux, because flux makes the solder flow better. So when you're struggling to work with solder, apply flux, and that'll treat some of the problems like magic. So I'm on a much more higher magnification, so I want to see things a little bit better. So actually I'm on 15 times. An ideal magnification is probably 4 times and 6 times, or 4 times and 8 times. Okay, I'll do an inspection after. I just need to get rid of this big blob of solder on that fucking capacitor basically. Just can't believe that that's happened. I had a feeling that's going to cause me a problem. Something like this should take a lot less time than what it's taken initially. If it means that I've got to shift that capacitor to finish off this joint and put it back on, then that'll be the way. Okay, now, okay. This joint, let me remove this foil now. I don't think I've got any further use for this foil because that's obstructing my view now. Now, the problem I have is that there's a capacitor on the side of that larger one, and these are stuck together now. So then effectively what I need to do is I need to shift. Because what I don't want to do is lose that capacitor, that small capacitor, because I don't have a value. And not knowing what the value of that capacitor is, that's going to throw things away completely. So what I'm going to do is just try it one more time with a bit of a... see if I can get rid of all the excess solder from the cap. Okay, but question still remains in relation to the joints on that controller IC. It's so fucking close. Making things difficult. Some of you just throw that in and boom, gone, but sadly for me, it's not my lucky day. So it looks like that I've got to shift that capacitor away. A pair of tweezers. Where's my tweezers gone? Sometimes the most simplest job will turn out to be an absolutely utter nightmare. Okay, so the capacitor has been shifted. Okay, and that'll give me enough room to make off those joints nicely. There you go. That's what should have happened by default. Apply a bit more flux. Interesting enough, I don't think the joints have been made off quite as I would have expected. So let's go back at it again. Hope for the fact that there's no solder bridging. Okay, so I think quite happy with that. Oops, almost damaged my microscope then. Let's clean the area. A bit of IPA. Solder on this cotton bud. Use a lot of cotton buds, works like magic. Nope. Bloody rascals. Two joints have not been made off at all. So let me give this a quick proper clean. Then I'm going to inspect. No fucking way. I almost lost that capacitor. Woo! That was close, that. I think it's a 10 microfarad capacitor that going off the info. That was close call, that. Let's see what's going on here. Yep, 1, 2, 3. Absolutely, I was absolutely right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this tip, because I think that this tip is to be blamed and not my soldering skills. So I also need to keep an eye out on this capacitor, that I don't drop that capacitor anywhere, because otherwise I'll be going through a lot of stuff to try and find one. Let's apply a bit more flux. Usually a QFM package like this, I'll be done in no time. Sadly today, this thing will be trolling me. So, clean the tip. Yep, absolutely right. With the correct solder tip on the Metcal, that's done the job beautifully. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a bit more flux on all the other three sides and go through them again, because I have a feeling that those joints are not done properly. Yes, I was right, 100% right. Those joints have not been made off at all. Clean the tip. I don't think I'll need the hot air station anymore, so let's turn that off. And let's try and make these joints. Yep, I'm glad that I've actually get rid of that excess solder. Okay, so that side's done, hopefully, but the final inspection will speak. Let's move on to that side. The capacitor's still there, that's not gone missing because I don't want to, I feel like I'm going to be jinxed today. So okay, and I think I'm quite satisfied with that, so I'm not going to try and make things perfect because I know that I'll turn this into a cock and balls basically, so for that reason I'm not going to take the risk of trying to solder things to a factory-like quality. So let's sort of flop that. Let's clean this board out. We'll use the toothbrush. Toothbrush does do a better job than a lot of other cleaning. Preferably a fine, brittle one. That would do the job like magic basically, so I would probably definitely recommend something which has a fine it's phase 1, and then the phase 2 will be with a finer toothbrush. Because one sad thing about Kimble flux is it's quite sticky once it gets cold. Okay, so let's no fucking way. No way, man. No fucking way. I'm gonna stop the video because this is going to become a bit of a fucking troll, right? Okay, so I'm gonna sort of oh bloody hell, a little fucking shit like this is just causing a problem for me. Right, so I'm gonna stop the video. Let me just, otherwise it's just gonna get too long basically. I'll talk you through what's happened after, alright? Right, okay, brilliant. The P13Usb has been put back on. There was, whether that's a manufacturing problem, whatever it was, I was having difficulty doing the solder joints. I looked at the original one, which is here, there, versus the one that's been supplied. It seemed to me that the paddings were slightly higher. So as I was dragging the solder to sort of, or applying solder to make a joint, the solder weren't reaching because of that height, slight height difference basically. And that was the root cause of all this faffing around. However, there it is. It's all in. The capacitor has been put on as well. The short has been removed basically. So let me see if I can prove that to you. Let's there's the red probe. Let's put the red probe on the ground. I might struggle. I need to. Okay, hopefully that's a good connection. I'm holding the camcorder with one hand. There we go. And let's turn this extractor fan off first. So you'll hear the multimeter beep once. Should do. That's only probably because it's not a good I've not made it. There we go. Yeah, whereas before it was beeping constantly. That's your ground. That's the pad that's coming from the unit. Now if you look here, remember that there was a capacitor that was actually beeping here. It's the one, it's that one. It's this particular one that was causing a bit of a beep. Let me see. That one there. This track here. Hopefully my hands are stable enough for you to see what I've just done. Now what I'll do is I am going to put the red probe on the ground, on diode mode on the multimeter, and as I touch the capacitor, it only beeps once. Let's see if I can get a better angle. Yep. See? It no longer beeps. So I'm going to reassemble the unit back together now, and I'll update you. The video has gone on far too longer than I thought though, so I'm just going to have to stop the video, play back, reassemble the whole thing, put it back together and see how we go on with it. Okay, so I'll keep you posted. Pointing something out to yourself basically. Just be very careful when you're putting this ribbon cable back in. First I've put the board back in its place. Then you can connect this ribbon without putting the board back in its place. It's easier to connect it, but as I said, just be careful when you're putting this in, because you can these little tiny pins, you can very easily bend them. Just see if I can zoom in. Let's have a look. Yep. So the tiny little pins, copper pins within the connector, you can very easily bend them. One on the center was slightly bent as I was putting in. It's pulled it down, so I've gone under the microscope, used a needle, lifted it back up again, put the board back in its place, and then nice and gently flush fitted the thingy. So these connectors are quite very flimsy actually. The flimsiest ones I've come across so by far. You know, it's the first time I've come across with such issue basically. So just be very wary when you're doing that basically. After you've done that, obviously you've got to reassemble. You know, you've got to reassemble the unit. It's not, you know, it's not something rocket science. Just put back everything where it needs to go back and power up the unit and see how you go on with it. So what I'll do is let me sort of finish, and I'll sort of continue with the video shooting shortly after. Right, bravo. Okay, the Nintendo Switch is working now. I've obviously reassembled the unit, and as you can see, the whole thing is working. Press the same button 3 times. Okay, there we go. Stop dropping this nonsense. Right, okay, so happy, that's working. What I'm going to do is let me grab the charger and just make sure that it's charging as well. So where is the charger gone? It's a common problem with this Nintendo Switch. Sadly, I couldn't sort of continue the video shoot live because this QFM package, or the P13 USB, was a pain on the ass basically. So to put on, here's the battery icon. Let's see what happens, and it's charging. There we go. Alright, so that's all really. That's all brilliant. Look after yourself, and stay well, stay safe, and hopefully I will be uploading more videos before Christmas. If not, have a great one guys, all the best, and I'll catch up with you in the next video. Bye for now.